Welcome to the PrimeSpan Podcast, where we talk about aging, mental health, and living well in the years that matters the most. Each week, we cut through the noise to focus on what actually helps you feel clearer, steadier, and more in control as you age. If you're navigating the second half of life or thinking ahead, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Our generation tracks everything: sleep, workouts, macros. But when it comes to our parents' long-term strength, most of us track nothing. This conversation is not going to be about fear. It's not going to be about decline. It's about timing. It's about the idea that we're trying to launch with our team, with our youth, and it's a movement that we're trying to share to the public. It's called Our Future Needs You. So I want to just welcome everybody on this episode. It's an honor to share this podcast recording to our guests, to our co-hosts. But my first question, when you hear the idea, when you hear the future needs you, what does that mean to you?
To me, the future needs you is like a message towards like parents, grandparents, and even like kids who are gonna grow up in the future, saying that like there are things that are happening in the future that you're gonna want to be there for. Like, you don't ever want to think about how somebody might not be there in the future. You don't want to have to think about how your grandparents might not be there for your wedding or for your graduation or anything. So the future needs you is just like a message about resiliency and just an emphasis on how there are things that people will want you there for and you want to experience, and the future needs you.
I have to agree with Cameron. A majority of my friends have already lost one of their parents, unfortunately, at some point, and that this is a common conversation that we have in our group, where we've had on occasion about whether it was lifestyle changes or other things that could have prevented, but there's so much life that they've missed because they passed away at a young age. Again, very close friends. We were like in our 20s, and one of our parents had passed away within like a year of each other over the span of maybe 5 or 6 years. So now, that's most rest of the 20s, 30s, 40s. They're not seeing marriages. They're not seeing the grandchildren. And that's just the parents. That's not even counting grandparents. So Cameron, I think you're very spot on with that.
This is a very aligned to what we're trying to do at PrimeSpan, right? We believe that strength after 55 is still buildable. But this is also why this movement that we're trying to do is very important. This is the very reason why we invited our younger voices in this conversation, not to correct the parents, not to make the grandparents or parents feel guilty, but to say that we still need them and to talk about these conversations. And so I want to introduce our guests today, our teams from our UCLA campus. We have Cameron, that I'm excited who you heard earlier. We also have Biba, who's also part of our team. And of course, our co-host here is Kassandra and Allyson. But I want to ask all of you here, you may have not noticed this yet, but have you been noticing your parents decline? And if you're noticing the decline, when did you first notice your parents declining or aging? And I'm curious, what does that make you feel?
For me, I think the first time I ever kind of like realized that like aging was like a new, like thing in my parents' lives was when they started kind of like, I would see the hospital report bills, and in my family, like conditions like diabetes, cholesterol, all of that like starts happening like usually in the later stages of everyone's lives, and it was starting to affect my parents as well, like as they were, you know, being told like, okay, you need to watch your nutrition, you need to watch like your exercise, and then kind of just seeing like their frustration with like balancing, you know, how do I balance like my current daily life, you know, they're really busy, you know, managing like me and my sister and obviously like work, running the household, and in the midst of that, like it's very hard for them to kind of like look at how to take care of themselves. And I think that was like the first like frustrations of that I kind of saw and noted as, okay, you know, this is like where we have to kind of start making like change, just like for all of our like futures and our like family as a whole. But
Allyson, you're gonna say something.
Being in aging services now and focusing more on older adults who need more support, I never really thought about it until I got more into this work. You know, I think when you're younger, I think I just focus more on myself and my own activities and not really gave time to think about my parents aging. But in a funny way, I would hear my mom and her friends joke about how it's harder for them to do things, or they have to get off the floor, you know, kind of things like that, where they kind of made jokes around aging, or, you know, that they have to dye their hair, you know, aging in those kind of ways, but didn't really give it so much thought. But now, as my parents are entering 60s and 70s, and I'm away from them, I see changes more. I see them once or twice a year. You know, there's a gap where you can tell differences and things. But
What do you guys admire most about your parents' resilience?
My primary thing that I admire most, my mom's a doctor, so she has a very demanding schedule. And I also have a 3-year-old little brother. So I admire how she's able to come back after like a 12-hour shift and come and play with my highly energetic brother and keep him entertained and not like snap. I think that takes a lot of emotional maturity and emotional resiliency. And I really admire that about my mom.
Yeah, kudos to parents. I mean, I'm going through the same thing right now. My son is only 2 months old, and I feel you.
I think when people become parents, especially like looking at moms, well, I might have had a really good example, but there's just like this superhuman strength and threshold to just keep going and doing and going and go. And I would have conversations with my mom in my 20s, and I'm like, I don't understand how you do your full-time job. You are, you know, and at the time my dad was alive. So I'm like, you come home, you cook dinner, you're doing all these things. I'm like, you used to take us to all of our practices and things, plan our birthdays, so volunteer. Like, I don't understand, you know, where that capacity comes from. And I think that that's what I admire the most about her, is that just her resilience to just keep going. And it doesn't matter how tired she is, she just makes it work.
yeah, I would definitely have to agree with Cameron and Kassandra as well. Like Cameron, I have a little sibling who's, you know, I have a 5-year-old sister, and I think my mom, she handles a lot in terms of, you know, like she had to step back from her career for, I think, over a decade. She was pursuing her PhD in nutrition, but she stopped that to take care of me, and then also our like extended family, like our relatives who were like living with us throughout the time, you know, looking after like a house full of like 8 to 9 people, while also kind of still working towards constantly like learning like new research in like nutrition, and you know, how to like better not only our lifestyle as like a family, but also kind of looking for like what's the next big thing I want to do. Her resilience to kind of push that idea of like, I'm not gonna, you know, sit at home, I want to get involved in my community, and kind of going out, helping at my sister's school, getting into like education and pursuing like the a new like passion and like interest in that field as like a teacher. That's something that she's working on right now, and balancing with my 5-year-old sister who's so chaotic and such a handful, and obviously me being away at college and even family back at home just like miles away, taking care of each single person while taking care of herself in the present. That's something that I really admire about my parents and my mom.
I admire everything you guys have said about your parents. I've always admired my mom's resiliency, being a single parent and going through a lot of personal things in life when I was younger, when my sister and I were younger. And like Has said, the moms are always there providing for us. And how do you get everything done? How did she raise us to be who we are? I've always admired her strength and what she was able to provide for us so that we could have the life that we had. So thank you, Mom.
I love that, Allyson. And I'm thinking about this. Majority of our parents are doing something to keep themselves healthy, resilient, and all of those things, which is very important. But I have a curiosity here about being their children. Is it our place to bring up health, or does that feel intrusive to parents? And this is probably a question that would resonate with the older adults that are listening to our podcast. What do you feel as a child, if you're talking about your parents' health, if you're noticing a parent's health, and that you want to just show love and say, I'd love you to address that. Is that something that, do you think it's our place to bring up that issue? Or do you think they would feel that that's very intrusive of us?
I think it's definitely like our place, but I can see how they would view it as like intrusive. Because if we're telling parents, hey, I want you to start exercising, I want you to get better sleep, then it's coming from a place of love and like, I want you around, I want you here. I don't want this to take like effects on your health and your quality of life. So it's not intrusive or anything if it's coming from a place of care. I've seen my mom do it with my grandparents because my mom's a doctor, so she's always diagnosing their problems and everything. Yeah, they're not always super receptive of it, but in the end, she always ends up being right, and they always concede and are like, hey, I should have listened to you. So I think the earlier that we listen to our kids, that the better off we'll be in the future.
I think it's worth being intrusive, and I'd rather have parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents irritated with me because I'm bugging them about this stuff than not here. So I will bug, and I think it's worth it. I mean, and again, it is coming from a place of love. It's not coming from a place of, vanity. It's not coming from a place of, just surface level. It's really because you want the best for them, just like how they want the best for all of us. And in my family and in my friends' families, everyone is very much shares what they're thinking or feeling. And I think it's all coming from a place of love, and there's that channel of communication that goes back and forth. And I think, again, like I'd rather just bug and have my parent upset with me for bugging or talking about it too much than not, because at the end of the day, if I don't say anything, I have to live with that if something happens to them, and it's just like I didn't try.
Because I do the same thing. I'm sure my mom will I'm revealing something here, but I'm sure she's gonna call me and say, why did you reveal that? But I'm revealing it so then she makes some action here. My mom will call me all the time, and she was like, she has high blood pressure, and I would say, did you eat this, and that? And she'll say, yeah, but I love it. And I said, well, why do you call me after why did you eat it? And then she'll sometimes she'll get, Mom, forgive me if I'm saying this, and sometimes she'll go to the doctor and complain about certain things, and the doctor will give her prescriptions and stuff. I will say, Mom, if you just stop eating certain things, you would not. One time she told me I'm diabetic, and I say, you're diabetic? I said, tell me about that more. And she was talking about it, and I said, "You're really not diabetic. It's just a diet that you have to switch there." And it's an act of love, but she doesn't see it because I'm joking around so much with her. And even with her sleep, I guess it comes, I follow with that, the sleep issue. But sometimes when I say something, she feels that I'm calling her out about it, you know. So my follow-up question is, would your parents change without being asked? And this is a thought that I've been playing around when I was putting this notes or this show together. How much parents do you think, especially at the generation of parents that we're talking about, those that are on their 60s and 70s, how much do you think, and all of you have friends here, how many would you, first off, would your parents change without being asked if they know that there's something wrong with their lifestyle or something that they can fix with their health? And then on the other hand, if we make that broader, do you think that is also the same theme of your friends, your cohort? Is that a common is that a common issue that we may have to look at, and possibly, is that an issue? Is that an issue?
Yeah, so my parents, I feel like they would definitely want to make a change in their lives. Like, they know specifically like what the issue is in like their current lifestyles. Like, for example, like my dad, he has such a sweet tooth, and like it's not good for his health, and he knows it. And we remind him every single day. I'm calling him from college, and he's telling me, "Viva, don't eat too much dessert." I'm like, "Okay, you too," but he still does it anyway. And the biggest thing I feel like is, it's not that he doesn't like want to change, but it's like, I don't think that he feels like supported enough to make that change. Like, it's very easy to just, go over to the fridge, open it. No one's like, stopping you, but you also don't want to feel like I don't want him to feel like, oh, I'm lecturing him, but even though, like, I know all of you mentioned earlier, we're just looking out for him. So it's like the fine line between kind of taking care of our parents, but also making them feel like supported enough to make that change, like kind of doing it together. Like, maybe let's say, hey, like, I'll cut down my sugar if you cut down your sugar. I feel like that would really get him to kind of start making that change, because then it's like, he's not the only one like going through it. It's like we're doing it together to kind of build like that lifestyle together.
That's a very good point. Allyson, you were going to say something.
I think that my mom needs a little nudge. I think my dad's always good lifestyle habits. For example, he would always buy my sister and I vitamins and fruits and stuff. I agree with Biba's point that they need support. They've never had a roadmap on how to look at lifestyle. I really don't think it's ever been part of any conversation ever in my time growing up, because we've talked about this before, but they've always focused on treatment of things, just give me the medication to fix this. And then the doctor, generally, exercise, diet better, but how do you do that? Nobody knows how to do that.
It brings up a good point, right? Because that's been the common prescription. Every time you have a sickness, I grew up the same way. Every time there's something wrong, it's a prescription. Every time there's something wrong, it's pointing out at that exact problem and fixing that problem. And so this whole mind shift is brand new to a lot of people, and it's you don't pay attention. The other thing that is brand new, or to us it's not so new because we're so into this, that the whole body's interconnected. So what you eat affects how you feel, how you sleep, how you think. If you don't sleep well, it's going to affect how you eat, how you feel, how you exercise. It's all interconnected. But before, that wasn't the conversation. This is why even right now, like the whole processed food conversation, people think that, what you eat is not going to affect how your brain processes. All of those gunk that comes in from the food will not affect your brain. Well, all of this is affecting you. It's all interconnected. So the guidance is definitely a huge aspect of this conversation. I'm going to ask a confession corner here. I'm going to have everybody here. I'm curious, what is something you've been wanting to say to your parent about their health, but you haven't?
The biggest thing with my mom is sleep. She does not sleep enough. She doesn't sleep well. My brother is like always, he's like an attachment to her. So he's always getting up in the middle of the night, coming into her room and waking her up. So the biggest thing is like getting him to stop, like doing the hard thing of like maybe going downstairs into the room downstairs and not telling him you're going to do that and then sleeping down there or something so that you can get a full 8 hours of sleep. And then there's other times when she goes from like day to night shifts where she doesn't sleep at all for 24 hours. And that's not good either. So like just prioritizing getting like 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours of sleep can really help with like the brain fog she experiences and like forgetting things. Like I think that's super important for her to do.
Thank you, Cameron. That is a very that's a very good point.
I would say the time of day that they're eating their meals, my parents push back their meals like on like very different days. Like if they have events, they'll eat super early in the morning and then skip lunch and then eat super late at night at like midnight for their dinner, or they'll eat breakfast at 12 p.m. and lunch at 3. And the time cycles where they're eating their food just doesn't add up. And it's also about what they're putting into their body in terms of like nutrition. Sometimes my dad really likes snacking things that are like more like deep fried or like chips, things that are like not necessarily good for like cholesterol levels in his like body. So throughout the day, just I feel like setting like a schedule and sticking to it on like a routine of like, okay, this is my period of time where I'm gonna eat breakfast and lunch, etc., or like have a snack, that would really help their metabolism rates and help them feel a lot better at the end of the day, so they don't go to sleep saying, oh well, I don't feel as well because maybe it's because I didn't eat like the healthiest food. Or
Cass, Allie, what's your thoughts on this?
There hasn't really been anything that I haven't said to my mom. I've told her. And it's in line with Cameron. It's really my biggest thing with her is sleep. Because I feel like everything else, like she's pretty good at when you're looking at all the pillars for the most part. And it's just really sleep. But I talk to her about it constantly. I've shared that with you guys in the past, and I hope she's not listening, but maybe this will peer pressure her too into it. But and it just has to, what I realize, and this is probably for myself or other people too, sometimes it just depends on who's delivering the information, who you're going to be more open to. Even though it's like the same exact message, it can be the same exact wording, and just because a different person said it, you are like, oh yeah, I guess I am. I should do that, right? Yeah, I'm going to start doing this. So
which is the most fascinating part. Again, when parents look at you as their child,
yeah,
even if you know a lot about something, you're giving them advice and you're giving them the education about the topic. They still won't. It's hard for them to listen to you because you're the child. You're listening to me. You tell me what to do.
You say fascinating, I say frustrating.
Allyson, what's your thought?
Okay, you called it confession, so I had to get my thoughts together. So I wrote, so if my mom listens, Mom, if you're listening to me, you took care of me my whole life, and now I have the tools, experience, and resources to know how to take care of you now. Oh my God. Aging is something that will happen to everybody, but we can help you age better. So let's keep working on it.
That's probably one of the most beautiful confession and statement a daughter can say about this, and this is, I met your mom, Allyson, and she's, and if you all meet Allison's mom, Alice, she's one of the most positive and just light-hearted person you ever meet. When I met her, just like laughter out like loud, and you can just beautiful spirit, and so I love that. I have to jump into this confession, and my my parents, they've always been, which fascinates me because both of them were huge influence to me when growing up. My mom, one part of her career in fitness. My family was in the fitness industry, and then my dad always was the biggest influence when it comes to exercise routine. And he still is, and he still does exercise. He plays tennis. He had a stroke three years ago, and he recovered from stroke because of tennis and all of these things. For my mom, I think it's the biggest challenges. Diet and sleep has been one of her biggest piece. She has a sweet tooth just like me, and I feel the same. I feel it, but there's times when I can see it's hard for her to let that go, and her health sometimes dwindle because of her food choices. And my dad, I think, I'm fascinated by how he has switched his lifestyle. Right now, he's in this journey of reducing stress. Every time I talk to him about my stress, he's like, "You're stressing yourself so much." And I said, "Really?" He's in this journey of reducing stress. He's trying to build a life outside the city, so then he can reduce stress completely, and like being exposed more to nature, being exposed more to ocean, being exposed more to vegetables and stuff like that. And it's been one of the most fascinating. I've been using the word fascinating today so much, but it's been one of the, because it's growing up, he's always been like complete hardworking business person and everything. But seeing him like pull back away from that and say, I'm old now. I'm trying to reduce my stress as much as possible, and so then I could extend my life so I could see my family further. And one of my confession is I've always seen him like a good example of that of life and careers, and right now seeing him like what's valuable for him is like stepping away from everything. And this guy has tried everything, and now he's stepping back away from those things and just trying to live simply, and while his needs are all met. It's, to me, it's like just amazed and impressed of how he can shift his mind towards what's important, and reducing stress has been his biggest piece this past 2 years. He's chasing that part, and I think he's doing it really well. So I want to just let him know I really admire that, how he's been so resilient from going through all of the things he's gone through. And so
thank you for sharing that. It's very that was very touching too. And it's so interesting that we have to work hard for part of our lives, where we have this instilled in us to work so hard. In the end, we're working hard so that way we don't have to work hard. So like, how does that make sense? Would the stress, would the maybe poor exercise routines, the poor nutrition even exist if we figured out what the code is, or what is the equation to just start that at an earlier age, versus working through our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s to be able to now, hopefully we're healthy, to be able to enjoy that kind of lifestyle.
It's a very thought-provoking idea or reflection when you think about it, because what we're trying to work for is everything that we're trying to do forward is so then we could lower our stress eventually, but you build up that stress. I mean,
it's a horrible cycle.
It's a cycle.
I'm curious what Biba's thinking about this as a young professional.
I definitely see that, because my dad, when I was growing up, I'm like always over here like, oh my god, I don't want to take the SAT, I don't want to, like, this is so hard, like all my classes. And he's like, listen, like you have to like work hard now to see the reward like when you're older. But a part of the reward, like no one talks about, oh, like movement is also important, like your lifestyle is also important. It's very focused on, I feel like I grew up kind of just focusing purely on, okay, your career, your education, but not mostly about, what am I going to do like in my personal life, just like how to like feel healthy like when I age. And that's something I also see like my parents not focusing on as well, because they were also like grown up with the same mindset. So that's something that I feel like, you know, I should, like, after coming to college, I'm like starting to implement these like new ideas of like, okay, like having like a healthy diet, like maintaining that, as well as like, you know, exercising, even though walking around like UCLA itself is a cardio, like 6 mile hike every day. But I'm trying to encourage them to also like follow the same thing, because the like mindset that they have right now is kind of like, oh, it's too late, I'm too old, and they're like reaching around the age of 55, and I'm like always trying to tell them that it's like not too late to start. Like there's no earliest point where you can start making the change that you want to see in your own life for yourself, and for you to live like the happy life that you want to, not just, you know, being successful in like career and all that, but also outside.
No, this is a very important point, because we've been talking about parents, grandparents to some, and our responsibility. And I really want to, for those that are listening, because some of them might feel, oh my, I'm feeling called out and this, but the reality is we're really not trying to call out. It's trying to call them in, inviting them in to make those changes. And the feeling of responsibility as the younger generation, the younger person in the relationship with parents or grandparents, we have an opportunity to really guide or support or encourage, show the love, show the care, and through this, and I'm curious for Biba, Allyson, Kassandra, why is this movement that we're trying to do important? And from an essence of a younger generation, how important is this, from your opinion, that this becomes a huge movement?
I think that the movement is, it's just it's needed. Listening to what Biba was sharing too, into what you were saying, Adam, we know that it's, yeah, we're not trying to make anyone feel bad or call anyone out. And to Biba's point, it's what our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, it's generations of this is what you have to do. This is what's going to set you up to be successful. And that was the focus. And it's now only recently, you know, in the last maybe 5 years to 10 years, where everyone looks at, you know, lifestyle, and even more so maybe in the last 3 years, lifestyle is being successful defined just by having, you know, wealth or being financially set. What are other measurements of success, you know, and how successful are you if you do have that financial stability and success, but what was the cost, you know, for that? So I think even more so, it's a huge calling on all of us to educate and inform our parents and families and people who we care about, and all of our, you know, everyone we come in contact with on these different lifestyle factors. It's so much more. It's such a huge mission for all of us, especially at PrimeSpan. That's the goal here.
Biba, you were gonna say something.
Building off of what Kassandra said, to me, this movement seems more of like an intergenerational connection. It's about the younger generation looking at, you know, the people who built like our futures and saying, hey, we want you here like longer and thriving and happy, and so that we can live life like together going forward. So it's kind of a movement of that in terms of like preventative medicine, since I feel like medicine is in the point of like a pre-med student. I've always seen, you know, my family just look at, oh, you know, we're going to get diagnosed. We're going to wait to get diagnosed with something before seeking like care or treatment, when that doesn't have to be the case. And we can, you know, live more healthy and start, you know, making those small changes that create like huge impacts on our like lifestyle and our health, no matter like what stage in life we are at, kind of connecting, us as like the younger generation with our loved ones, and helping promote this like togetherness where we're all in this together and we're all building like our futures together. So that's why I really think this movement is really important in terms of like longevity, healthy aging.
I love everything about, because it hits exactly what we're trying to share, which is you raised me. I want you to be here for my future. And what you're sharing here is that it is a generational responsibility. And I have another confession here. I'm looking at it from a parent standpoint now too. I'm thinking about it as a parent, that I have to be responsible. So then I will be there for the future of my kid. And I'm hoping that if I don't fix my sleeping patterns, hopefully by that time he'll be able to call me in and say, Dad, you have to fix that sleeping, or else I want you to be around me. And Biba, you said it perfectly. Allyson, how can people, especially those that are listening in, how can people join this movement? I'm sure some younger generations might see our conversation or podcast or everything. How would people get involved with what we're trying to do?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we have a hashtag that we really want our movement to grow and bring more conversation to this. I think there's a lot of people who can share their thoughts and opinions about how to help their families and their parents. So our hashtag is Be Here for My Future. And that will be on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and we also have LinkedIn. But soon you'll be seeing us share some videos about more about our families and how this movement, what this movement means to us. So follow us on all of our social media platforms. If you wanted to visit our website, go to PrimeSpan.life and you'll be able to get more information about our services that we have there. We have our Facebook group that we want everyone to join as well to stay part of the conversation. So it's free to join those. And we also have our podcast now. So hopefully you're listening on one of the platforms, but we have Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. So all of these at no charge. And we just really want people to learn how to live better, longer, and join us on this mission to help people do that.
And Biba, I am curious, we're trying to influence our younger generations in the campus. I am curious how, if you're a young person listening to this and you're from the campus, different campuses, how would you call them to join this action, this movement?
I would, start by going to the people we know most, turning to our loved ones, our parents, our grandparents, and people we care about and saying like, hey, I'm not here to lecture you, I'm here to like kind of grow with you and thrive with you, and let's do this together. And just kind of helping create that supportive environment that, our parents and loved ones need to help grow into like the best version of themselves. So kind of empowering that and sparking that in, the people around us immediately. I feel like that's the best way, in my opinion, that I could, or a student like me could help kind of promote that to our community and start making impact. But yeah.
As we're closing this episode, I want to just ask anybody, what would be your final advice for both young generation or older adults who might be listening? This is a good time to do some call to action, act of love. Maybe our parents will be listening to this, because this campaign, this movement, The Future Needs You, isn't a fear-based movement. We're focusing on how much we care about our loved ones, our parents, and how much we care about them and how much we love them. So I'm curious, parting words, closing words from our team here, from our guests, from our co-host.
I'm so inspired by what Biba said. You kept on like the word together, just like stuck out to me so much. And I think that the last parting words would be, don't do this alone. To our listeners, do it with someone, do it together with someone, gather together, and bond. And you don't have to do this by yourself.
I think my final words are, we focus a lot on our parents here, but I also want to encourage my friends too, because I want to be, growing old and doing things together with them as well. Yeah, I think that we have the tools and resources to show people how to, enhance lifestyle, and we can all do it together.
I love what, Kassandra Allison shared. I would add connection as my parting word. I feel like this is like a journey that all of us are going through, together, and it's what makes us kind of like unified and connected. So, and I think that's beautiful.
Well, this is a very important episode. I'm hoping that people get inspired by listening to this, hoping that families will listen to this, could be shared to their families as well, because most families wait until something breaks, and we're choosing to speak earlier, and this movement is that important. Thank you for being here in today's episode. For those who's listening in, hopefully you enjoy and continue to follow what this movement is all about. And we appreciate you staying with us until our next episode.
Thank you for spending time with us. If today's conversation gave you clarity or steadiness, take that with you. We release new episodes weekly. Follow the PrimeSpan Podcast on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep living well.